in the Fortune 500 and so forth, is to have a planet with far less people on it than there is now, either inadvertently through these earth changes or by design, through World War III, a flu pandemic, or severe economic collapse leading to societal disruption, or all three happening at the same time. These are all matters that could be happening in the not too distant future. What's going on right now? In March of 2008, well, the first 2 months of this year, of 2008, we had 400 tornadoes. I refer to what we're living in right now as phase one. Phase one is where normal commerce takes place. We can have our careers, interact with our families and our social events that we normally do, and life appears to be normal. The powers that be are using phase one to finish their final preparations. This shelter I talked about here at Weldon Springs, Missouri, it took almost twice as long to build it as they anticipated. They kept running into the various problems that any construction project has, but they got it built. And they're using these remaining months to finish up whatever final preparations they need to get their people in place and get moved. Phase two will be when these earth changes events, abrupt climate change, bizarre weather, earthquakes, tidal waves, all become so numerous that they become daily news. In fact, when I meet people out in the street, almost everybody comments on how bizarre the weather has become. And that's pretty much a topic of daily discussion. The government, the powers that be, will claim that these bizarre weather-related events are related to global warming. And when they're happening, that we need to start cutting back on our creation of CO2 greenhouse gases. In fact, on the way in this morning, I heard that we had our first ever, today, we had our first Earth Hour. In Sydney, Australia, we had our first Earth Hour where they turned off the lights in Sydney, Australia for 1 hour to get people to think about global warming. Since I've been watching these matters the past 9 years, I watched it incrementally become a bigger and bigger media event, up to the point where Al Gore got the Academy Award for Best Documentary in 2007. Then it was like, we're off to the races. Up until that award, or that Academy Award, global warming related news stories was maybe twice a week. That was about what I was seeing. Since then, since he got that Academy Award just over a year ago, it's been daily, 7 days a week, global warming stories. And there will be no end to it. As long as there's news, as long as they're capable of broadcasting news, you will have global warming stories every day of the week from now on. As these events become more severe, you're going to hear more and more men with lab coats from NASA talking about global warming being caused by human activity, and that it will be better and everything's going to be okay, so you can go back to your baseball games and go back to work Monday morning. Things are going to be fine. That's phase two. Phase three will be a relatively short period of time. It may be a matter of a few days, maybe a week. It won't be long. At some point, people will realize that things are very strange and very dangerous, and they'll start doing things they normally wouldn't do. Say, for example, you're a professional, self-employed, or you have several people working for you. Half the people in this country work for small businesses. Many of the owners of those businesses are financially well off that they could lock the door and never go back. They love what they do, and that's why they go to work every day. I've heard any number of people tell me, they say, John, the government doesn't want to create panic. That's why they're concealing this. No, the government's not concerned about panic. What the government's concerned about is business owners making very rational, very logical decisions that I'm locking the door and I'm out of here. No panic whatsoever. That's what they're fearful of, because that would shut down the economy if enough of them did it. They want to keep these people in the dark, as long as possible. A friend of mine, a gentleman I've known since 1970, 38 years, I made an appointment with him about 3 years ago because I consider him a very dear friend, and I wanted to warn him about these rising ocean levels. I won't use his real name. I'll say his name is Billy Bob. So I make an appointment to meet him in a coffee shop, and I drive 2 hours one way to meet him in this coffee shop. And we get caught up on marriages, divorces, babies, and grandbabies, and all that. And then I get to why I wanted to meet with him. I said, Billy Bob, did you know that the oceans could be in the hotel lobbies in Miami Beach in 5 years or less? Now, the answer he gave me didn't surprise me because I know what he did as a young man 45 years ago. And he said, yes, I know. So I took half a day of my life to warn my friend about rising ocean levels, and it turned out he already knew. Now, 45 years ago, when he was in the military, he got involved with covert operations, the real black bag side of the house. And he's been connected ever since. He doesn't get his news from CNN or the newspaper or the Wall Street Journal. He gets his news from the people that make the news. So he didn't need to be warned. He didn't need to be warned. Most men, and it's mostly men because of the nature of the work they do, some women, who know about what we're talking about today, just simply go about their lives and keep quiet about it. They're not public speakers. They take care of their family, they take care of themselves, and the rest of you are on your own. What I bring to the table is public knowledge of what's a very well-kept secret. Phase 4 will be the end of the world as we know it. Once these oceans come up, the infrastructure that supports normal human activity will be wiped out. Take, for example, shipping, ocean-going ships. The bulky, heavy products of the world, whether it's grain or petroleum products or coal or lumber, is all moved by ship. Ships that go in and out of seaports. When the seaports are underwater, all that stops. It's finished. It's over. That's just one small example of what we're looking at in the future. The housing where 100 million people live will be damaged and or destroyed. The potable water that these people rely on will no longer be potable. The food that they rely on to eat will no longer be available. It will not be a pretty picture. Martial law will be instituted probably before that, which brings to mind these other scenarios I mentioned. Economic collapse leading to social disruption, for example. If things get bad and there's what appears to be a need for martial law related to rioting in the streets over economic collapse, people don't have jobs, can't buy food, people will probably go along with martial law under those conditions because it would appear to be the right thing to do. It would look like a way to get things back to normal. So people will go along with martial law under those conditions. If, however, martial law is instituted because these oceans are coming, nobody's going to pay attention to that. They're going to get out of Dodge. They're going to get out of Dodge. They're going to be gone. And martial law or no martial law, they're going to be gone. If martial law is instituted and there's a lockdown before that, then we'll have a better chance of maintaining martial law. I've lived under martial law for a year in Vietnam. What are you looking at? You're looking at curfews. The curfew could be from 10 o'clock at night to 6 a.m. The curfew could be 24 hours a day. They're under 24-hour curfew right now in parts of Iraq, I understand. Restrictions of sales of firearms, ammunition, and alcohol. Rationing of fuel, rationing of food, potable water rationing,